Hello, 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 and good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live here in the Honing Block with me, OC Ejiofor. This is the place where you can come to sharpen your skills as an entrepreneur, as a budding entrepreneur, someone who is changing their career, thinking of starting a business or refining their monetized hobby. This is the place for you. You will get your questions answered. It's a chance to hear from experts, to hear from different people who are experts in different business areas. Now, I know for those of you who have been following the show, you've been expecting talk with Kike Okenwa, who is the, Kike Oniwinde, who is the founding director of BYP Network. But unfortunately, we've had to reschedule that interview. But do not despair. We have got a fantastic panel for you today. These people are absolutely amazing. They are experts in their field, and they're going to be bringing their knowledge to discuss with us tonight the topic of the post-pandemic workplace. The majority of us, well, we've all been on lockdown for a very, very long time. Now, some people have been going back to work. I know there's some people who have been maybe in the construction industry or in other jobs. You have been working already. But a lot of people, you've been working in retail or you've been working in some other jobs and your job is not open yet. What is that going to look like when you go back to the workplace? What is it going to be like? Is your job going to continue the same as it was before? Are you going to continue maybe working from home? Are you really up to speed with all of this digital tech that is needed to be able to work remotely? Are you actually thinking, do you know what? I wasn't really paid as much as I should have been. And actually, maybe you were on furlough. Maybe you were expecting 80%. Maybe you only got 50%, 60%. I spoke to somebody recently, a neighbor of mine. He actually was only getting 60% of what he was getting when he was at work. How are you going to deal with that? Are you actually happy to go back to the same workplace? Are you thinking, right, do you know what? Now is the time to start my new venture. We are going to talk about all of those things tonight. We're going to be discussing with experts in their fields, and I'm going to introduce each one of those to you right now. So who have we got for you tonight? We have, of course, Mr. Paul Morrison from Microsoft. We have Mr. Ronaldo Lawrence, who's an Adobe educator. We have the urban teacher, Mr. Mark Martin, who is the founder of UK Black Tech. And we also have Paul Essien, who is from Urban Capital Consulting. And those of you who have been following EJWAY Education, you'd be familiar with these speakers because they have spoke at my events. In fact, probably from the beginning, I think I've had all of them on from the very, very conception of EJWAY Education a few years ago, back when I was a full-time teacher doing this as just a part-time gig. But if you don't know about each one of these people, if you're not familiar with them, I'm going to show you a little bit about them so you can get to know them a bit more.
Sometimes you can't save a failing business. Sometimes it's best for that business to fail and you start again. The best way to start the process of saving a failing business is to step back and interrogate that business, analyze that business, analyze what it does. Why is it failing? Do you have the right team? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you starting your day with the ugly stuff? Are you selling? You know, nobody likes picking up the phone and calling people for money. There are ugly things about a business that people don't like doing. I used to hear a saying when I was young that everybody likes eating sausages, but nobody likes to see how they get made because that process is ugly. Nobody likes that. And it's the same in business. There are ugly things that you don't want to do. In every successful business, there are people that do the ugly things first.
There's a story about a man in a tree. A young person was going to work, looked in the tree, saw this man trying to cut down a tree. He went to school, came home from school, and he saw the man still in the tree, cutting down the tree. And he said, you know, why is it taking you so long? And he says, my axe is blunt. And he said, well, why didn't you sharpen your axe? And he said, well, The reason why I don't sharpen my axe is because I haven't got the time, because I'm trying to cut down a tree. And so the story kind of tells you that it's important every so often to take some time out to really focus on sharpening your axe, sharpening the tools. So what a mentor does is really gives you the support that you need. Every day we do things and we sometimes work in auto drive. Every so often it's good to stop, talk to a mentor, somebody who's got more experience than you, someone that's been through that journey before, and really learn from them.
I think developing an extremely positive mindset is important. And one of the things I am extremely conscious of is who I am. So one of the things I do is many surveys where I will ask people to be genuinely honest with me about me. Because I need to know that if I'm not being effective in whatever job I'm working at, then I need to correct that. So I ask people, and I'm not afraid to ask anybody about what they think about me. And I will tell them, please don't lie. So sometimes I think the important thing is to look at what you're doing, evaluate what you're doing, but don't evaluate it merely from your perspective, evaluate it from somebody else's perspective. Now, there's the other side that you will have people who don't think that you're doing what you need to do or don't think that you're good enough to do what you need to do. And that's the balance of life. That is the balance of life. So you have to have a very good self-perception of yourself and be open when you go into these avenues of self-discovery.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Great. Nice, nice, nice. Is any teachers in here? Can I see your hands of teachers or people who worked in education before? Fantastic. So my name's Martin. I'm a secondary school computer science teacher. I've been working in education for the last 15 years. And a couple of years ago, I saw that there was a merging gap between the sector and also what I was teaching in my curriculum. And what I wanted to do is kind of bridge that gap, that narrative around homegrown talent. How do we connect more homegrown talent to the sector? So I was able to work with a lot of awesome companies, bringing them into school, changing the narrative that homegrown talent does exist in London and the UK.
Okay, so good people, that is the lineup of speakers, and I'm very happy to introduce them to you tonight. I'm going to first of all introduce to you Mr. Paul Essien. How are you today, sir? Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good, Elsie, actually. I feel blessed. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's great. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Paul Morrison as well. Paul, how are you?
Oh, very well. I am actually in the presence of some great men. I feel so honored to be invited. Thank you.
Well, yeah, most definitely some great men. And Mr. Ronaldo Lawrence, how are you, sir?
Sir, blessed beyond measure. Blessed beyond measure.
Fantastic. And finally, last but not least, Mr. Mark Martin, how are you?
Thank you. I'm really fine. And thank you for inviting me to such a great topic of debate.
Fantastic. Yeah, you know what? I don't know when the last time was we were all under the same roof.
Yeah.
It must be over a year. It's a very long time. So at least we can do this digitally. And yeah, do you know what? What are your initial thoughts just on the subject area, just on the topic itself? I'm going to kind of get out of the way and let you guys talk about what you think about this whole pandemic. How has it been for you personally? And what do you think about the future of the workplace?
Are you going? Who starts?
You go ahead, sir. You go ahead, Paul.
I feel conflicted, if I'm honest. I'm hearing harrowing stories from people about how it's been for them, losing people that they love, losing jobs, losing income, losing futures. And I'm conflicted because I've been more productive than I've been at any other point in the last 10 years of my life. There are things that I've tried to work on for years and felt like I haven't had the time. I don't think there were always excuses. Sometimes they were, but sincerely, I haven't had the time before. And now it has been, for a sustained period of time, I've been able to balance my day, be as effective as possible, build ways around my idiosyncrasies that were holding me back, spend lots of time with my family, and still maintain an income and even improve it. And then when I hear about other things that are going on, it makes me realize how fortunate I am. And then when I speak to people from the point of maybe an advisor, I have to check myself and be conscious of the fact that there's things I have access to that maybe other people don't, and maybe I've taken that for granted in the past. So yeah, it's been an interesting time for me, and I've learned a lot.
It's interesting you say that, because like you said, that there are so many, it's not a straightforward topic to deal with, is it really? Because it depends on what job you have. It depends on the industry that you're in, I guess where you are in that, in your profession. It is very, very interesting that you feel you've really progressed in what you've been doing. Whereas some people have actually really been struggling and suffering. Very,
Yeah,
very.
but I mean, just not to go on, I know there's other speakers, but it has reinforced more than ever. And also with what's been happening recently, really recently, in terms of some of the social issues, it's really enforced for me that nobody is going to pay me or treat me as well as I will. And so more than ever for me, it's that I need to find solutions for myself, for my family, and for my community from myself.
Right. That is a big deal, because I keep saying I haven't shared my story. I am going to share my story, but you know my story, and you know that was the very thing that kind of thrust me into entrepreneurship. I was kind of the teacherpreneur. I was my full-time job and doing little bits on the side, but that was the very thing. You know, you have a limit when you work for someone else, and actually, if you want to negotiate that limit, other people will decide whether you deserve to have a pay increase or not. And
regardless of your endeavor, really.
Yeah.
You know, and that's because they're looking after their own business. And so, as I've said, I don't take it personal. I be honest about that. But I know that I need to determine what I need, my own fulfillment, my own job satisfaction. So it's my responsibility. And that has been brought home to me in this period, most definitely.
Excellent. I'm going to bring in Paul Morrison here. Paul, you were listening naturally to what Paul has said. I got double Paul. I got two Pauls in the same place. Yeah. It's fantastic. Naturally, obviously, all three of us would have had a different experience during this lockdown. How has yours been in comparison to Paul Essien?
I think what Paul was, mentioned is, for me, it's been very, very surreal, a surreal time. You look at what this COVID-19 has done, the effect that it's had on people has been so cruel. So I've been getting involved in things like food banks and getting lots of people supporting the vulnerable. And I've seen what this has done to them, people losing jobs. I think the opening trailer, definitely said that about sharpening the axe. This is a time where if people are not spending it sharpening their axe or spending time to really better themselves, they're missing an opportunity. There's never been a time where actually you can spend, if I look at my typical day prior to lockdown, I was traveling all the time. I was going to Scotland in hotel, going to meetings, having lunch, coming back on a train, getting back late. And now I find myself in my house pretty much all the time, unless I'm, going to the shops or whatever. So if after lockdown, despite all the negativity of this season, if after lockdown, I say that I haven't spent time focusing on me, putting the oxygen on myself before I go out and reach out to others, I've missed the trick. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is, for anyone listening, this is your time to really focus on getting yourself skilled for the new norm, whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that kind of ties into the other thing that I do, which is helping people to learn Forex. And what I find is actually helping people to learn a new skill. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm a teacher, but I find it so rewarding just helping people. Just like some people, it's not related to money. It's not related to money. Maybe they've always wanted to play the piano, and actually now's the time where you can do that. But really, it's about bettering yourself, actually finding that thing that you can do and doing it.
Yes. And there's a lot of people that used to be, I call it the jack of one trade, but the master of one. In other words, they're good at what they do. They're good at their job, and that's what they do, and they become the expert at it. But the new norm is going to mean that just because you are working in finance or just because you're working in medical, you're also going to have to learn new skills. You know, everyone's using technology, and there's lots of people that used to say to me, I don't like going in front of a camera. But now they have no choice, because that's how you meet people. That's how you see people. So I think absolutely we need to use the time to really start to focus on how are we going to better ourselves and learn new skills. That's what I'm thinking.
Most definitely. I'm going to bring in Ronaldo now just to hear from him. Ronaldo, I know you were listening to what both of the Pauls have said, but just on those last points. Now, I know you're very much a man of kind of self-teaching. You are like, I guess if you put self-teaching in a dictionary, it should have your face next to it, right? Because you live in the library. I know that's how all the skills that you have, that's how you've acquired them, right? It's just spending time to learn something new. Is that how you've been during this time of the pandemic?
Well, first of all, I would like to say, I feel so sorry for so many people who have struggled through this thing. And it's been devastating to a lot of communities, devastating to a lot of people who lost people. And I've had a few people lost people around me from within my, circle in terms of school. But, I think, as Paul said, it is an amazing opportunity to find your niche. It is an amazing opportunity to sit back and I don't think, other than when I first met my wife, I don't think I've appreciated her as much as I do now. And I think I've appreciated her so much more now and my kids because I've actually had time to spend with them. And not just time, but quality time. And I think that's what it's done for me. I think the family thing has been huge. But also, I think what has happened with me, man, is I've had a chance to reevaluate my values and find out exactly what's important to me and what's not important to me. And I realize now that a lot of things that I thought were so important is not really that important. I think the other thing that has been tremendous in the way that it is brought forward for me is I have been doing what I've been doing now in terms of the tech thing for about 15, 20 years. And I warned people a long time ago, we all need to be training teachers. We need to do this, we need to do that. And people just looked at me and laughed, and whoa, and behold, look what happened. And I think as far as I'm concerned, me personally, man, I'm living my best life. I'm living my best life. I've had a chance to, I've got to build my website now that's up like I wanted. I've had a chance to create some courses that I'm going to sell. I've had a chance to write the other half of my book, my second book. I've had a chance to do quite a few other things that I've always wanted to do but never had the time. So, again, I'm very sorry about what happened to people, and I sincerely am, but I've looked at this time as a time of reflection and as a time of taken the opportunity to do stuff to better myself.
Yeah, I know that's definitely the main thing now for people. I think bettering yourself is what it's all about. I love what you said about appreciating your wife and your family. I feel the same way. I literally feel the same way. I feel so blessed. Just being around my children more and being around my wife more, you kind of appreciate more and more just what they do, who they are as people. I've kind of discovered different sides of my children and how they might be when they're in the classrooms. It's amazing.
But the thing even more important than that, man, is just finding out who they are as people and appreciating the little nuance about them as people. But in terms of the classroom, what I really realize now for these parents is that little Johnny is as nice as they thought little Johnny was. You know, when the teacher told them little Johnny wasn't exactly trying to do what your little Johnny needs to do, now they've had to try to teach little Johnny. And they found out that little Johnny ain't that little sweetheart that they thought. So that's a big eye opener to a lot of people. You know, and I think the appreciation of teachers now will escalate a little. I really do.
Oh, most definitely. And speaking of teachers, there's another teacher I'll bring into this conversation now, Mr. Mark Martin. All of us working in education, in fact, all three of us working in the ed tech space. Interesting what Ronaldo just said just now about kind of discovering, and I guess it works both ways, right? So students, they thought, you know, really nice, etc. But when you really get to know people, it could be both ways. I know that you and I think all three of us have had experience of actually working with students who have a lot more potential than maybe was previously perceived. And you know me, I'm all about growing your potential. And I think this is kind of the main thing that's come out of this now. People are starting to shine. There's less of a hindrance now. But yeah, Mark, how have you found it? What were your thoughts on what Ronaldo shared?
Yeah, I think that in lockdown, it's been a test. It's been a test for our young people, and especially with families and around free school meals, which we've seen heavily in the headlines recently with Marcus Rashford campaigning to extend that. And then also we've had transport freeze for a lot of our young people. So the TFO is freezing transport. So young people are going to have trouble getting into school. And then when we think about the job landscape in terms of apprenticeships, some companies have pulled them back or some companies have withdrawn them. So there's a lot of young people disheartened that they thought they were going into some type of placement, but actually not. And then when you think about universities, now some universities are saying that all lectures are going to be online next year. So a lot of our young people have said, why am I going to go to a university and sit by a screen? And then if you look at the research around MOOCs, which is online learning, you know, if you're not motivated and have those, stimuli to actually keep you on the course, then the dropout rate can be very heavy. So at the moment, the landscape amongst our young people is very concerning. And then when we think about, you know, the support that is supposed to be put in place for them, it's very slow to act in terms of young people receiving digital devices and laptops. And then also one of the things that I was talking to a few organizations about in terms of seeing trauma. So in the last couple of weeks, I've either witnessed trauma from COVID-19 or seen trauma due to the George Floyd incident. So there's so much happening in this landscape. And I think that it's people like us that, you know, can really stand up in this time to be a really a true voice and a voice for reason amongst all of the uncertainty for our younger generation. But I would say in the last couple of days, I've seen a different tide in the young people, and you know, the young people now, it seems like they've got a fire in their belly. I don't know whether it's the social injustices that they're seeing every day around people coming out about racism or, you know, the inequalities that they've experienced for a long time. But it's really warm heart to see that there's so much youngsters coming from different backgrounds, really trying to push for that change that they want to see.
There's so many different points you've mentioned there that we could really hone in on. I think that it really is true to think about it from just the education, the top end of education perspective in terms of the new workplace, because that's really where it starts. You're kind of choosing something to study in the hope of going into that job. But now the education space has changed. Actually, what does that mean for how you're focusing your skill set, etc. What I want to do is I want to bring everybody back in at this point. And what I'm going to do is we're going to just try to cover a few different areas around this, because we know when it comes to future workplace, there's nothing set in stone. Things are being made and developed as we speak. But there are certain key things that maybe we could share in regards to our own personal expertise and our suggestions in terms of how people could prepare. I think really it's about how people could prepare for the future workplace and how they could approach it. Ronaldo, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? Can I just applaud Mark for bringing up Mr. Floyd? Can I applaud him for bringing up the situation that is happening in the world now? Thank you so much, Mark, because I think it's a huge issue. And I think in America, 3 days ago, they had in Germany, they were expecting 1,500 people for a march. They got 150,000 for a march. So Mark, thanks for bringing that up, man. That's all I wanted to say. And I think we need to, everything that we need to talk about, we need to keep what Mark said in perspective, because it's a different world now. It's an uprising. It's different. It's really different. So Mark, thank you for bringing that up, man.
Yeah, most definitely. I think I echo that. I think it is definitely important. I think that where my mind is in regards to this is I like to plan with the end in mind. So my mind is like, okay, so once everything is sorted out, what now? So we have people taking a stand right now. That's great. We have changes that are being talked about, people in positions in Parliament trying to actually do something with the reviews that have taken place around racial imbalances in pay, et cetera, et cetera. This is, I guess, what we need to think of and prepare for, isn't it? We don't want it to be that actually this drags on forever and ever. We're continually talking about it, but actually once things are sorted, and we know that it's a long process, we know that it's going to be an ongoing process, but actually what does happen once things have changed?
It's interesting that we're speaking like this, because what is the future of work? The future of work is identity, self-belonging, acknowledgement, and some type of fulfillment. So irrespective of whether you own your own business or you work in the in an establishment and organization, you want to bring yourself to that. And the reason why that's important is because that's when you're the most innovative, that's when you're the most creative, and that's when you're able to, do things that you never ever thought you could do. And one of the things that I always champion and always encourage people to do, if you can't be yourself, or if you can't, if your identity is always under attack or you're having to police that, then it's not only, going to affect your mental health, it's going to affect everything, what you're doing in the workforce. And one of the things that I've seen today was around when the Office for National Statistics said that nearly 600,000 jobs now people are unemployed. And then they also looked at the people that are self-employed, that I think there's nearly 130,000 people that have now become unemployed, even though people running their own businesses. So with all of this uncertainty coming about and all of this equality talk, there is this strong need more than ever to, obviously, as Ronaldo was saying, and what we was talking about earlier, around how can we bring ourselves to this new problem that is facing right in front of us.
It's quite interesting, Mark, because I think that one of the main issues that we have in this country, as in with America, is that we have not done a very good job of training people. But I think people have not done a very good job of training themselves, a lot of people. And I think with all the stuff that's going on now in this country, because I'm here, what I find actually amazing is with the government, that all they've talked about is going back to school, which is great. But I haven't heard anything about, okay, how are we going to address the problem of making sure the teachers now understand if we have to go back home, how are we then going to make a provision to help these students to learn? I was looking at a newspaper today, and I think it was the Times, where they said, I forgot the figure, but X amount of students have not even interacted. Sorry?
2 million haven't had.
Yeah, but I firmly believe that a lot of that problem is because of the way things just happen and people weren't prepared for it. I think a lot of that is preparation. And I think a lot of that is where we have a situation where we have a bunch of people who not necessarily not IT literate, but have never been in the position to have to do what they're doing now in any situation, because they've just figured, like you say, I got my classroom, I can go in and teach. But what if you have to create stuff for yourself online? What if you have to create content to have students to access? And I think that's a big problem. And I think that's something that the government needs to look at.
Okay, we've had a comment coming. I think this is in relation to what you're saying in terms of education. It's from RS on YouTube, suggesting working from home. Now, this is definitely something that is obviously been apparent in terms of people who've been on furlough or people who have continued working. They've actually worked from home. In terms of the education sector, we know that that is an option. It's an easier option with the older students. It's not as easy the lower down you go in the schools, but I think concerning everything that's been said now, and even in terms of this comment from Morrison on YouTube, you know, how does this work within the different sectors that we have? So we've obviously got public sector, private sector. We've spoken about people who would own their own businesses. We were speaking about people who are working for someone else. How does that look for those different people once things start to open up?
So, I'm coming from a perspective where I think it's slightly different in that my reality is no safety net. And why I think that's important in difficult times is that some of what Ronaldo was speaking about in terms of preparation, it forces you into a situation where you have to expect the sky to fall down at some point. And we're in a country that has hundreds of years of experience in education and exporting education standards to other parts of the world that we've colonized. And there's been a complacency, not only in education, but in other institutions, because we're Great Britain and this is what we do, right? But in execution, it falls short. In response to RS saying, well, work from home, well, how do you work from home if you have 3 children under 11 years old in the home, and the particular school that they go to is substandard in their infrastructure for schooling from home? I have 2 children. One is at a very different school to the other. The older one is at a school where they still do PE online. Like, I don't have to do anything. And then the other child, I am basically his teacher all day long. So work from home, how? So it does also depend on what work you're doing, how well you're being remunerated. All of these things now tie into each other. So I think more than ever, the new norm is that we need to be aware that we're more vulnerable to the unknown. We need to be aware that we are more vulnerable to all the other institutions in our life that we previously didn't notice. You are now more vulnerable to how poorly or how well your child's school prepares for things, or how well or how poorly your workplace prepares for things, or how well or how poorly your wife's workplace prepares for things. There are so many moving parts that we took for granted before that we now need to consider. And this just makes every answer much more complicated and provides layers to it. And the truth is, there is no one answer. It has to be down to the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of our individual lives. And to do that, we still need a firm foundation. If you are working from home and the company you're working for has reduced income and reduced workload, guess what? They might not need you to work from home. They might not need you full stop. How do you plan for that? Now, what Paul was saying before, Paul Morrison was saying before, he was talking about, sorry, it's one of my lines, he was talking about upskilling and how this is an unprecedented time to learn. And I still think equipping yourself with more information, and Ronaldo was saying the same, it's the time, because what else are you doing? You know, you have an opportunity, even if you're working full time from home, you no longer need to travel an hour in and an hour back. Go on Duolingo, learn something. You can be better than what you were before. there's no guarantee that post-pandemic we will need more German speakers. But you will have an ability that you did not have before, and it will give you a better chance to prepare for the unknown.
But also what Paul said early on is that no longer is it important to be the one-man band. You need to be multi-talented and multi-skilled now.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, like I said, this is the perfect chance, perfect opportunity we'll never have again in terms of skilling. The only thing that's still in the back of my mind, though, is unfortunately there's some students, some young people who don't have. I mean, I'm told, there's some households still don't have a device. They still have one device between 4 children, and they're expected to learn at the same pace as someone who's got a family who's got 4 devices between 2 people, and they can pretty much do. So we need to somehow support those underprivileged, those students who are having difficult, those who can't even have a cooked meal. We need to do something urgently, or we're going to find ourselves with the gap widening, and that's what we can't have.
Well, sorry, Paul, we've had it. Our culture, our country is built on those gaps. And the truth of the matter is, as now we're in a generation where we're seeing more action, but it's not more action from the institutions. Talking about what happens in government, these laws have been in place. There's not supposed to be pay gaps along the lines of ethnicity or sex. It's already illegal. I was watching something about Joe Biden came out and said that we should make chokeholds illegal. They were already illegal before Eric Garner was choked by the police. These laws are already in place. So a lot of what's happening now is just going to be lip service.
But I think in some ways, though, depending on what state, if you think about the United States, depending on what state you're in. And I think that's one of I totally agree with you.
The truth of the matter is, we have enough problems in the United Kingdom. America, it's a scary conversation to have. But in the United Kingdom alone, the institutions, we have to accept, they already know what the gaps are. And the truth is, they've accepted that there's going to be a certain amount of wastage. And that wastage they're talking about are our young human beings. They've accepted that, and they've pretty much accounted for it. And that's the ugly truth. Now, it's about what we then can do to impact our communities and the people that rely on us.
So things that we think about, and especially from the UK Black Tech perspective, is that we need to start talking about, first of all, we need to start creating our own stories.
Yep.
And then putting that into the future, because we know what the problems are now. If you wanted to list out all the problems, we'll be here till tomorrow morning. And I think it's more than ever, industry leaders, people like ourselves, that can now start talking about the future. What does the next 5 years, 10 years look like? And sometimes what we find is that we're in a state now, we don't know if we're going to go through a recession or a depression. We don't know what's going to occur. But one thing we do know is that people like us that have who are working in a range of different industries, whether it's education, technology, real estate, there is a real opportunity here for us. And in terms of this massive unemployment gap that's going to occur, what's going to be the latest skill? So last week I was speaking to some top tech companies, and they're saying, listen, we had to let go of half of our department. But what we are doing is going to open up a new department in cloud computing and cloud engineering. Why? Because everyone's working at home. They need to build in their cloud infrastructure more than probably what they were doing before in other projects. So what we need to do, which is really important now, is one, start talking about what does that future look like? What does hope look like for us? And more and more, I think what's happened is that we've got into the tradition of getting the wrong people to give us advice and to romanticize with the issues that we're currently facing now. And if you look on our TV every day, you'll find someone who's either an X or X this, X that, romanticizing with sometimes even the trauma of certain situations. And I just think that now there's a great opportunity amongst us to really start thinking about where are the quick wins in this. So, and a quick win of those people listening, where's your Google Alerts? Where's the alerts that, you know, you can type in a few keywords and it can ping you once a week on the new opportunity or job opening, or a new skill that you need to learn, or something that you need to jog your mind on, or so there's some practical things that we can start doing now to future-proof ourselves.
I love that. I love everything that's been discussed so far. Has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm seeing some comments coming through both YouTube and Facebook as well. Now, one of the comments again is from RS, and he is talking about. He says he was looking for a job description for a digital workplace specialist. So that is a type of thing that, I mean, he's commenting here that he's saying that this is a newly created role. He worked in the IT sector previously as IT support. But what he's talking about is actually a specialist who will create and implement applications that will allow users to work from anywhere. There are a lot of businesses that do not have the infrastructure to facilitate people working from home. Now, there's another Facebook user saying that they are happy to work from home as long as they're given the right tools and equipment to do so. So this is another implication. Yes, fair enough, maybe people will be working from home. Do they have the tech infrastructure to do so? Is there the efficiencies in place to allow people to do this effectively as well? I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, just from my perspective, there's a lot of, and I think there's a lot of people feel like they need to spend a lot of money in order to get this remote learning, when actually there's a lot of things that are free of charge. And I often wonder how many of those out there are aware that a lot of the tools are free. Now, I'm not talking about a laptop, and I totally understand the laptop, but a lot of the collaboration tools are free. And I think from a education perspective, and when this COVID-19 all started to happen, the first thing we needed to do from a Microsoft's perspective is work a way of how do we get all of these schools to be able to offer remote learning. And I was amazed with how many schools at the time was not prepared, not ready, didn't know, but there actually a lot of tools are there. So I think there is a message of we need to get our message out from a technology perspective to more people, that they can actually use some of the technology that's free.
Well, Paul, can I just say this to you? Ignorance is an amazing thing. Ignorance is an amazing thing. And knowledge is even a better thing. And if this all goes back to training of staff, this all goes back to being prepared for situations. This all goes back to, like you say, all those free tools. And there's a billion free tools out there. You don't actually need to pay for hardly anything if you know where to find it. But most teachers don't have the time to search and to learn those applications like that. You know what I mean? They just don't have the time. And this is where I think the schools need to step in. And I think we need to seriously now look at the curriculum, look at the provision we're giving for these kids, and sort of make a real stance. And I think personally, am I honest with you, I think GCSEs are done, man. I think we need to look at education as a whole and actually try to reform some of the stuff that is happening. And the stuff Mark was saying, man, and you were saying, Paul, we got so many kids out here, man, who just, man, it's bleak for some of those kids, man. And I had a kid contact me the other day. He couldn't do his homework because, like you said, man, he had at his house, there are 5 kids at home, 1 laptop, which is his dad's laptop, and the kids are fighting to try to get access. You know, that's despicable. In a country with so much money, in a country where these, like BT and all, making billions, these kids have lack. And
But the thing is, Ronaldo, is that there's a percentage of our community, especially when we are in the climate, especially in the Black community, that have front-facing jobs that doesn't necessarily sometimes require technology, but they got to be on the front line. Whether you're a bus driver, whether you're working at supermarkets, or whether you're cold-facing. And I think that there's something in there, even though we've got a lot of that community on the front line. This is where we need to have a generational dialogue from the young to old. And I think that sometimes is that we have it in pockets. So the older generation is saying the younger generation ain't ready. The younger generation saying the older generation's washed out, they're full of, the ideas are wasted. And I think that there's something in there in terms of within our community, how do we kind of transfer information? How do we spread it across the different generations? And one of the things I think about when I think about business and I think about, the future of work is the necessity business. The businesses that have always been on the shop high road for, 20 to 50 years. And then some of these tech companies that have had probably more rounds of raising lots of money folded in the first 3 weeks of COVID-19 because their infrastructure, they didn't know how to make money. They just got a lot of money in-house and they didn't know how to make it, and now they're folded. And with those old probably Caribbean shops, they're still going strong. They're still serving you your patty and cocoa bread. So there are things that we need to be having in terms of this generational dialogue. Those shops need to be upgraded a little bit of technology, because some of our younger people give back into those communities with the new skills that they have to create wider and emerging markets. So this is the thing that I think now is that we're not looking at a global market amongst our young people, amongst our community. We're looking at local markets. We're going to be having to think locally from now on in. Exactly what Paul Essien was saying earlier. We have to start thinking about ourselves, our community, and our family locally, though.
Well, what I'm doing, Mark, and it's not what Ronaldo's doing. It's not at all. But I was contacted by somebody, and what I'm doing, man, is I'm working with this lady, looking at parents with kids with autism, and we're creating content online and teaching parents how to use tools online to help their kids with autism. And you will be surprised, but maybe you won't be, but how many people are out there that need help, man. And yes, Mark, that community, but all facets of that community, not just the people who we consider just might not have, but the people who are struggling and they're at home and need help. And Paul, man, you said some things, man, that is amazing in terms of being at home and looking at perspective of another businessman and running a business. You know what I mean? Because what you said just now, and you've given me insight on, because I didn't realize, because being a teacher, I see things from I don't see things from the normal perspective. But you are in the business world, so you see things from the business world. Can you speak a little bit about how difficult it is for you?
I've had conversations today with members of staff. Now, my staff get a great basic, but they make masses of money in commission, right? When things shut down, in terms of my staff that deal with residential real estate, it's been dead. So I can't even furlough those staff, because as good as their basic is, what supports their standard of living, their 3-4 children, is their commission. Their basic is just a baseline thing, right? Now, on top of that, I pay for their cars. I pay for their petrol. I pay for their funds. You can't furlough a car payment. You can't furlough someone's petrol. So I'm saying, remember, my business is solving problems. My staff solve my problem, right? Now, when you're talking about, someone said, oh, well, I can work from home as long as I've got the right tools and equipment to do so. Well, I will only hire a person for certain jobs if they've already got a license. Our employer's going to start saying, well, hold on, if you don't already have technical infrastructure at home, I won't hire you just in case you have to work from home. We're straying into dangerous territory, and the issue is a lot of people that work don't actually understand how a business works. And a business first works on, I want to solve the problems of my customer. Because for as long as I can solve the problem of my customer, I get paid. Mark made a point about the companies that weren't really making money, because in a pandemic, you're not an emergency, you're not essential, so we don't need you. You've had 3 weeks worth of cash flow, you're done, right? And the companies that are still around are the companies that are still solving problems in a pandemic. I know a pilot that was furloughed. He had a lorry license. So over the pandemic, he was driving to Tesco because he had other skills that were in more demand than the demand to fly planes. No planes to do it.
But I love what you're saying, but this goes back to when the Caribbeans first came to the UK. The first probably 6 businesses they had was like corner shops. They were looking about real estate, part of the kind of system that they had. And I think that we need to get back into some of those ways of living, in terms of how do we get back into areas of the economy where they actually need us to be effective. And it's interesting because I wanted to sell toilet paper and ice a year ago, and everyone laughed at me. If I'd kept with that now, I guarantee I would have. You would have probably seen me in a suit, a 3-piece suit. And people may laugh at that, but it's so important now that when we're giving advice to young people, when you're giving advice to your colleagues, and when you're giving advice to your whole community, we need to be giving them laser focused advice now. It's not like, as I said, this is a new world we're living in. We're not living in a world where, you know, we didn't know what safety was. And I think that for a long time, when the older generation said, you don't know what hard times is, now we know what hard times are. And it's about how do we, as a group of men, as a community, really, you know, support us in trying to drive that innovation through. Because as they say, if the people don't have a vision, they don't have hope. So we just need to be at the forefront of that.
I believe that the future is going to be solving problems. And the truth is, so fast. But I think, you know, we've got people that are going to want to know how they help their children. We've got people that want to know, they've tuned in today so they can figure out how to pay their bills next month. So what it's about is self-education, educating our children, but on how to solve problems. No matter what the problem is, and how to monetize the solution. And that can be a qualification, but it can also be a skill or a trade or a food shop. But this is what we need to really get down to. What RS was talking about, the reason there's demand for digital workplace specialists is because now there's a problem that needs a solution provided by digital workplace. So why can't we now start advocating a method of teaching people how to anticipate problems, and then teaching people how to solve those problems, how to evidence the effectiveness of those solutions, and then where to send the invoice? That is a business.
Could I just say, I just want to, I know I've spoken for long before, but I just want to give some practical tips for those people listening. So as a computer science teacher, a lot of people ask me, Mark, is coding the future? Do I need to learn coding to be a part of this new 21st century revolution? No, you don't need to learn coding. The reason why we teach coding in schools is not so much that you'll get a lavish job, but one day you'll understand that you won't be manipulated by the code that tricks you into buying something on your internet because it's popping up in your browser. So there's many reasons or many angles of why we teach coding. The top skill at the moment that has always been around is desktop skills. Anyone listening now, if you became a specialist at Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and access databases, you're going to be in work no matter what the cause is. And then most people say, where do I get skilled up? You can go on YouTube. You can go on those free videos on YouTube. On Eventbrite or Meetup, there's an event every day. You know, there's too many webinars now in a week to learn something and to ask a professional. LinkedIn, you know, where do I start with LinkedIn in terms of connecting with other people, like-minded individuals? You have to start creating your tribe. I think that, if technology is a barrier for you, then you might need to just phone someone up who technology is a success for them to start empowering you or lending that laptop to you once a week or whatever it is. But please, this is the time where, yes, you need to upskill yourself, but also understand where the job market is going towards.
Mark, can I just say one thing? And then, you know, what people don't understand, which is what you're just saying, Mark, you know, YouTube is the best resource in the world. If you go to YouTube and just type in education, they got a whole education section that you can learn anything, you know, and anybody to me, and Paul, I understand exactly what you meant. I really do. And I understand about feeding people and everything. But if anybody want to do something, they got to start doing it for themselves. And I can understand this thing with COVID. I can understand people want to eat, but you got to start someplace. And education is the place to start. And I know people say that a lot. But, you know, they have now, man, you can go to Harvard University. You can go to Yale University. And you can take courses. You can take the whole course. The whole course. And the only time you have to pay if you want the degree. So you can learn all that stuff. So I think we're coming up to a time now, man, where a degree is important, but it's not the be all to be all. I really don't think so anymore. I think it's being able to show that, because if I came to you, Paul, and I could show you that I had the skills in order to help your company, I'm not sure whether you would want to see whether I got a degree or not, because if I can do the job, you know?
I don't have any staff with a degree.
Yeah, yes. So, I mean, but education is important, but I don't think it's the be all. I think we've overblown education, in my personal opinion. I really do. You know, I got kids who come out of school, man, who couldn't write a check or who couldn't balance a checkbook to save their life. But we're not teaching that in schools.
Yeah, but let me say, I don't have one member of staff with a degree, but every member of my staff is highly skilled and highly competent. And so you're right. I'm just saying, not having a piece of paper is no longer disqualify you, as long as you can evidence your capability somehow.
Right.
As long as you have the wherewithal to communicate in a certain way, I think you're okay. But there's nothing here that I disagree with. It's just that I think OC's put this panel together on purpose, in that we have different perspectives and we're not all sitting wearing the same hat. Because for me, like I'm here itching, thinking about the people that aren't really here to speak about what's happening with the kids. They may care, but not as much as they care about what's immediately in front of them and the problems they need to immediately solve and how they can monetize their businesses and change their careers in this pandemic and in this disaster, right? Now, but then what some of you guys are more passionate about is, the mental load and worrying about this generation that, let's be honest, they've been left on the scrap heap. After 3 months, we can see that there's a whole swathe of our young society that quite simply already now at 11, 12, society doesn't care about. The schools don't care about, the government doesn't care about. And that's now, it's just that it's taken this epidemic to bring it up. I'm saying we have to pick and choose to a certain extent how effective we can be and where. And if we can have a coalition like us and maybe somehow bring together our economic power, our knowledge base, our network, and pick different parts of the problem and start solving them, and not just say it and every time we meet up we have a heated conversation, but actually start putting things into practice, then I think we'll make a lot of progress, because waiting on the institutions is not the answer.
Mr. Morrison, from a Microsoft point of view, what do you think?
I've never seen, as much as I am now, the large organizations such as the Microsofts are willing to support. They are unlocking as much free stuff as possible. If you want to talk to people at Microsoft, the door is open. If you want to collaborate, and it's never been like this. I don't think we've ever needed to do this as much as what we're doing now. And I think that anyone listening to this message, to this call, you've got access to some of the most incredible industry, and whether that's education, whether that's technology, which I'm from, whether that's in business, you've got access to so many resources at this time that's never been available, as far as I can see, as it is now. You've got access to it. The door is open. So if anyone is listening to this and there's some areas that you want access to, please do get in touch. Get in touch with the guys at EJWAY. Get in touch with Ozzy. There's opportunities there to collaborate.
Paul, I echo that. I mean, at the moment, what I found, even in the business world, there are institutions that I've tried to engage with for years. And over the last 3 months, there are gatekeepers and even senior executives that, from ignoring me for 2 or 3 years, are now sending me WhatsApps about how big their beards are. That's because everybody's at home. It's an unprecedented time to get access to people. You can just ask. The worst they can say is no or ignore you. So what? But it's a time for a bit of audacity, I really believe.
Okay, can I say, let me just, I need to start. I know you guys are in flow, and this is amazing. And we're usually wrapping up around now. We're not going to wrap up. We're going to carry on for a bit longer, because I'm liking this discussion here. But you know me, I'm passionate about those career changes, okay? I'm passionate about those people who don't actually know what to do. And I wanted to kind of think about what are the most important skills right now. And as Paul was mentioning, Paul Essien was mentioning, what are the opportunities that are available right now that people need to start thinking about and actually practically work towards solving those problems, actually making a market for themselves? Because all of you know my story. I was a teacher. I made an opportunity for myself within education technology, and then following that, I actually started these business events through EJWAY Education. But I know what it feels like to want to change and not know where to start. Yeah. What information do you go to first? What steps do you take? It's fine for people if you've got a business degree, but for those people who haven't got that information, let's think about practically what type of steps. Ronaldo, you mentioned free application. What are those applications? What types of things should people be learning? And because we're faced with the internet that's got so much information out there, how do we narrow it down and go for right?
I think Mark hit it on the head. I think the worst thing that happened to this country is when that gentleman from Google came over here and said that we need to start doing coding. Because what that has done is just alienated so many kids and so many teachers in the teacher spot. But I think, like Mark said, man, if you can have all the practical skills of using the word processing, the PowerPoint, all that stuff, man, look at the Google platform. That's a whole platform that you can teach. That's a whole platform that you can use. You don't need any money to use that, I mean, there are all kind of applications now. There are coding applications online that are free. If you want to code, that you can learn to use. There's everything is online. You just search for what you want. To me, that's the big thing, because I'm not going to spend a lot of money on stuff. I'm not going to, because I don't have to. I just search for what I want, and trust me, it might not be the exact program, but there are programs out there that you can use.
Can I just say, just very quickly? So, from a Microsoft perspective, every student gets access to complete free training from Microsoft. Every teacher gets free training. There's so much training, whether it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether you want access to things, it's all free. I'll send the links to Ozzy, which you can share with everybody who's listening.
Please do.
One of the biggest areas, advice I can give, there's two main tips I can give right now. The first one is, whenever I go into these big meetings, I always challenge the institution and say, there's not the fact that there's going to be a massive skill gap or a job gap. It's an awareness gap. Because when I think to myself, I always try and put myself in my younger self. What would I be telling myself now at the age of 16? First, I'll be telling myself to buy some shares in Nike and probably wait to now to take that money out and to go and buy Nike trainers now. But the thing is that it's the awareness. There are so much opportunities in this country that we just don't know about. And sometimes they live in silos, they live in pockets. One of the things that I've actively done on my on all of my profiles, whenever I see an opportunity, post it, share it, let my community know that certain things are happening. And then also my second point is we need to be strategic with our searching with stuff. So, we've got access to so much information. We need to be strategic. We need to know when to, do some Boolean searches for those people that are into the old way of searching stuff. We need to be very strategic in the way we search for information. Because one thing I have realized is that it's not the fact that talent doesn't exist. Most people you'll meet on a daily basis has a skill, has a craft, has a gift in something. But it always comes back to the access and opportunities to thrive in those spaces. So whether it's now we're in a season of, setting up your own business, having more Black-owned businesses is a big thing trending at the moment. We need to start thinking and talking in that space.
Look, again, I'm sorry to be the base capitalist, but I'm just going to keep it to what I am. I work with technology. Technology forms a massive part of what we do. There are systems that we have created that are unique to us, right? But practicality and solving problems is the most important thing that anybody needs now, whether they are 16 or 63, right? And for me, just to answer OC's question directly, as practical advice to whoever is listening, is first, you need one morning of radical self-honesty. What do I have? What are my overheads? Okay, what am I happy about? What am I not happy about? What do I want to do? And let it be an ugly morning, right? That's where you need to start. And then the next thing is, what can I access for free? What learning? What can I learn immediately? Now, there's everything that everybody's talking about today. It's coming at you so fast. We're talking about coding. We're talking about desktop. We're talking about all sorts of different things. I'm 63 years old and I need to earn some money now. Things are coming at you so fast. So again, I will bang my drum again about solving problems. Right now, we have a world full of problems, and those problems are being communicated constantly. The head of Barclays came out a few weeks ago and said he doesn't think they'll go back to big offices anymore. A lot of business, the whole property industry has paid for COVID in the fact that people have been told not to pay their rent. Offices are closing every day, and people are being told to work from home. A lot of shipping companies have gone bust because shipping's not happening. Why doesn't somebody open a company that turns shipping containers into home offices? Containers cost £1,500. You can get some of them on 90-day payment terms. You can contact a large company. You can Google them, find out. You can say office closures, and every company that's got an office closure will come up. And you can contact that company and say, can you put us in contact with your staff and see if any of them need home offices? We can provide home offices for £8,000. Would you be willing to subsidize that? Like, these may sound like crazy ideas, but they are just based on, let me find out what problem is happening today. Let me come up with a solution. Let me evidence how effective my solution is. And let me find out who to send the invoice to. And whether it's in coding or anything else, that is what we need to be advising people to do, in my opinion.
Fantastic. Now, first of all, Paul, do not apologize for being a capitalist. we need more capitalists, right? Okay, so the reality is, we know money makes the world go round, and the reality is what you've just brought up was the next point that I was going to make, and this was to challenge everybody to think about those people who not even are not tech savvy. They are not going to learn about tech. They're not going to. They're at that stage of life. They're beyond whatever needs to. So what do they do? What is the practical thing that they need to do? And I'll Paul, you've given you perspective in terms of that. But even those people who maybe, like you said, shipping companies have closed down. Maybe somebody who's a truck driver who are directly involved in that. Maybe they've lost their job. They're at a place in their life right now. What do? What is next? What's practical? I love what's been mentioned already. I love the radical self-honesty. I love the learning. I love the fact that you're pointing people towards specific programs. But actually, this new workplace, even if we think from a technology level, some of these jobs are going to be automated. Some of these jobs are just going to be non-existent. Like we said, the delivery van, delivery driver. Tesla, we know they've created the self-driving truck. These delivery systems. There's also another company that's developed an underground tube system that actually delivers large to medium to large parcels. So what is that going to do to the white van driver? So all of these things, we talk about the future of the workplace. It's not just about COVID. Actually, it's about where people are. What are those opportunities that people are gonna face, and how do they deal with it? And by the way, we've got a couple of comments here. Someone saying, "Good idea for office containers." I would, even if there was just a chair and a plug in there, I would just use a raw container. My children are all in my office.
Look us up. I registered it on Friday. GiveMeRoom.co.uk. We will bring a container office, because I saw Google on Thursday. I know a builder, and everyone's talking about, it costs £12 to register a company. And again, there are companies sitting on thousands of containers that they can't do anything with. They want £3,000 for a container. No, guess what? No, I can't give you £3,000 for a container. I can give you £1,200 in 90 days. How's about that? Because the worst they can say is no. And I'm just saying, the aggression that we have in us.
Brilliant. What is that? What is that email address? What is that web address?
So the company is Give Me Room.
Yeah.
The website is ineedroom.co.uk. It's being built by your guy Steve at the moment, actually.
Okay.
We'll check it in a few days. But I'm saying these are little ideas that you can test an idea. You can say, okay, do I think there are enough people with this problem? Well, we now know for a fact there are. Somebody just messaged in that they're trying to do digital workplace solutions, and him Googling that brought him to this meeting. That shows us there's evidence for the fact that we can actually have it as a problem-led drive, not just for us, not just for the people that aren't tech savvy, but for the people that are tech savvy, for even our young people. Let's teach our young people, let's teach the people we speak to how to solve problems, because it's the solutions that we can monetize.
Okay.
Facebook is not a social media network. It solves the problem of you communicating with people that you don't see. McDonald's is not a fast food place. It solves the problem of you feeding your family in 3 minutes. How do we solve problems? That's what we're talking about.
Well, can I say something that you said that's so important, man? And that is, to me, is that self-evaluation thing. Because right now, if I would do a self-evaluation of me, there are some skills that I have that maybe I was scared to put out there, but now is the perfect time to put them out there. So that self-evaluation thing, man, is huge. I'm going to take that away from you, Paul, and I'm going to run with that. Tomorrow morning when I get up, I'm going to beat myself up. No, I'm being serious. I'm being very serious. I'm going to beat myself up because I need to know what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. Seriously. Because only when you look at yourself and be honest with yourself does reality set in. And so I thank you. So tonight, if I got anything, thank you for letting me beat myself up, bro.
Thank you.
I would just add that, you know, tech, when we look at tech is just a tool, it's an enabler.
Yeah.
And as someone who works in the tech industry across the whole tech landscape, it's basically to fasten up a process of something. And most people who work in tech are not techies. So you don't need to be a techie to be in tech.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I work with people that have had all interesting careers that are now working in tech. Obviously, we know that in the next couple of years, we're seeing more usage of tech, and through this pandemic, we're seeing how, you know, we're still trying to have a bit of normality by having virtual meetings, virtual dancing, virtual clashes, virtual DJing. But what's really interesting is around culture capital. And we don't really speak about that a lot in terms of how much value that is. And I think that sometimes I see it a lot in my younger generation that they throw it around like confetti, where they're really talented. They've got lots of culture capital, so they can go online and bring a bit of their culture, and it can trend overnight. And they don't know how to essentially bottle that up and sell it on, like, you know, the capitalist market would do. And I just think that during this pandemic, we have seen innovation being birthed. I done an event last week around COVID-19 with PwC, Microsoft, some universities. And again, I was blown away by some of the innovation that was actually thought about in terms of domestic violence. How do we help more people that are in homes that have a really toxic culture? Mental health, we know that with all that trauma that we've been seeing. So in terms of all of these world problems, they're realer than ever. And right, we do need to bring some innovation to that, but also with the whole thing around you need to also, as an individual, know that if you have got all of this talent, how do you actually manage that and actually own that, have some ownership around that? Because one of the things that I've really seen, especially in Black cultures, we've got really a lot of culture and a lot of talent, but sometimes the ownership is not there. So it might be, you might not even need to learn a new skill. You might just need to learn how to own that skill.
Yeah, just jumping in and totally agree. I think Paul mentioned about solving problems. The other thing that I think we absolutely need to be doing is seizing the opportunity. there are many opportunities out there now that if we are not careful, we will miss. For example, I talk to lots of people about investments, and there's plenty of people with money, but the rich people have already invested in those shares that collapsed. And suddenly, when all this is back up and running, they're going to make a wealth of money. And there's people that are saying, if only I had done that. There's some people with some great business ideas that they say, I'm going to launch this business. And in a few months' time, they'll say, if only I had done that. So my encouragement is seize the opportunity. This is a time for us to go and seize, go and make some differences.
The two polls, can you guys, because I've got marked detail, can I make sure I get you guys email addresses, please? Because I'm serious, because I got a few questions I want to ask you guys. I got a few things I need to ask y'all. Y'all just slapped me in my face tonight. I've just learned.
all the connections are going to be made after this session's over. Guys, I hope if you are watching this live, if you appreciate what has been shared, type a comment, give a thumbs up, let us know. I think this has been probably the most valuable session. Listen, everybody who knows me knows I fear God. I'm a man of God. And you know what? I believe everything happens for a reason. We're supposed to have had one type of interview today. Couldn't happen. We're rescheduling for July. But this happened today. There is no mistake about this. I do believe that this has helped somebody specifically today in regards to you maybe didn't know where you were going to go. You didn't know what you were going to do, what your job was going to look like. And having this discussion, listening to you gentlemen tonight has been just so valuable. Ronaldo's saying he's learned stuff. I've learned stuff. I'm sure we've all learned stuff from tonight. But if you're watching, you have any questions you'd like to ask them, we're going to wrap things up now. Type those questions as quick as you can into the comment section, and I will pose those to everybody tonight. But I'm going to ask the first of the last questions to all of you. What do you feel is the biggest thing to look forward to regarding the future workplace? What is the biggest opportunity that people have to look forward to regarding the future workplace?
Is this personal, or is this going back to a workplace?
So the general landscape of the workplace. So
let me start first. I think the biggest opportunity now, we're working in a global market. There is as an educator, when I was stuck in my classroom many years ago, I just thought that I was just the king, and the school was the castle and I was the king in it. But actually, when I went outside of the school and saw that there were schools all around the world doing amazing stuff, and I wanted to connect and to really master my craft to a next level. And I'm hoping that people who are listening now is that, one, you're working in a global market, you're going to hear more no's than you're going to hear yeses in business. You're going to hear a lot of people saying it won't work, but you got to keep pushing through. And, you're not alone in this. I think that there's this misperception that, there's only a few successful men or women out there doing positive stuff, but actually there's quite a few of us. And it's just about making sure that you reach out to people like ourselves and make sure that you keep on empowering yourself with the latest knowledge and insights into where things are going in the market.
And just from my perspective, there's an amazing opportunity out there. Some of these huge companies, big companies, whatever size companies, there's people who've been there for many, many years, and they are used to being good. They're used to, showing how good they are. Suddenly there's a new norm, and they feel somewhat vulnerable because they don't have those skills that is needed for tomorrow. They had the skills that was there for yesterday. So for those who are out there who are really learning new things, who are reading, who are looking at solving problems, seizing the moment, this is your opportunity to go and find that really new niche job and go and do something incredible.
To look forward to when going back to the workplace, I strongly feel that as a business owner, when I talk to people about entrepreneurship, I think it's important to express that if you have a job, that is your business. It's your product. You're selling a product to your employer. Your employer buys your product in the form of PAYE. And you are, it just happens to be that your employer is your biggest customer. I think more than ever, this is going to be evident in the new workplace, and that provides a lot of opportunities. Employers that are aware of your quality will now keenly be aware of your value. And if they do not meet your requirements, they will understand that you will replace them, that there are other customers for your product and for your quality. And I think not only with all the social change, but just the extraordinary epoch that we're living through, we're seeing now that things can change, monopolies can die overnight, and your value now, if you can evidence your value effectively, you will be duly rewarded immediately for that value. And I think that's to look forward to when we get back to the workplace, wherever that workplace is, whether it's in an office or one of my containers, you will be able to. But yeah, that's look forward to it.
As far as I'm concerned, man, I live here with two entrepreneurs, my son and my daughter. And, I look at my daughter and the way she works. She works for Vogue magazine, social media. And I look at the way she works and the way that company works. And I look at what she's done for herself with over 40, almost 50,000 followers on Instagram in terms of actually creating her own product, which is her. And so what I've done is I've created my own product, which is me. And so I was showing OC today, I have now a lot of products that I'm going to sell. I have books I'm going to sell. I have a lot of other things coming up in the pipe work. In a few days, I'm going to sell. I was at the printers today getting some stuff done. I've started my own little coaching business where I'm now, as an African-American, as somebody of color, if you want me to talk to your staff about what to expect because your school is all white or you only have one African-American school, I do that now. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like that. I've completely reinvented myself. And I make no excuses because I'm damn good at what I do, and I make no excuses. And if you need me, I'm there to do it. Going to the days where you talking about, oh, well, I might be able to do this. No, I can do this. Because if I'm not doing it, somebody else is doing it. And at this moment, this capital right here is a capital to use at the moment. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to use it. Okay? That's where I stand.
All right.
Okay, guys, thank you all so much for everything that you've shared. We've had comments from online, PA saying, amazing panel. Thank you so much for that. And Og's Beauty is saying that it's been a very good discussion. And then we have someone, PA again, saying he'd love to connect with Paul Essien. Now, here's the thing about this. Now, EJWAY Education, quite naturally, all of these gentlemen here that are speaking tonight have spoken at our events. And if anybody's been watching any of the interviews I've had previously, you may have realized that actually EJWAY Education, what I do, I funnel people into people in my network. So if people have a business idea, if they have something that they need help with, yes, at the front end, EJWAY Education will help you shape your business idea, and then we'll pass you on to the people in the network. And I know that Paul Essien is currently working with a couple who I interviewed earlier on in the year, and they are doing a child mining business from home, and they're looking forward to, they said one day they'd like to have their own nursery. And I heard that, and if you can watch it back, it's called Business from Home. I was so passionate about that. I thought, I'm going to try and help you out. I'm going to plug you into my network. And now you're seeing part of my network. There are a lot of people that I have connections with, but I definitely plugged them into Paul. And I know, Paul, you've been helping them recently. Is that right?
Yeah, we went to see a large building on end of last week, maybe even the start of this week, right? And we're going to see another one tomorrow. And they've sent me a proposal. I'm sending them
proposal. So yeah, it's positive. Happy.
Fantastic, fantastic. So this is how we work things out at EJWAY Education. If you'd like to get in touch, visit www.edgewayedu.com. I'm going to put that up so that everybody can see at the bottom. And also we have our live competition on there, but the website is there, scrolling along at the bottom. In fact, this competition for last week is still open. I've extended it. I actually forgot to share it. Post it, so you forgive me for that, but you've got extra time on there if you want to win your £20 Amazon gift voucher. But gentlemen, can I just say thank you all so much for everything that you've shared. It's been absolutely amazing. If you're watching this, would you like to see a part 2 of a panel discussion, the same people or a mixture of people or maybe others from our network? If you would like to see that, drop it in the comments, give me a thumbs up and let your thoughts be known. I would like everybody who is on the panel to just give their final thoughts before leaving, and then do stay online, guys. I'll talk to you after I've closed the live session. But let's start. Who wants to go first? Just their final thoughts. Ronaldo, you go.
Yeah, can I just say, in all honesty, I'm blown away by you gentlemen. I'm blown away by your ability to think beyond just yourselves. I'm blown away with your ability to look at the world as it really is, not how it might be, but actually how it really is. And I'm even more blown away that I can call like Mark, Paul, we've been in contact. Mr. Essien, I'd like to be in contact with you more. I can call you guys and just throw something by you. Oh, I've been talking to you regularly about things that we need to do that we've been putting off. And I'm so proud with you, man, because I'm your client. I'm your client, and so people want to know what EJWAY is doing. I am his client, okay? And I just want to say, man, is that my last thing is this. If you're not getting off your behind and trying to create something for yourself, you're missing a golden opportunity, because now is the opportunity that you can create your own world now. You can create your own world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ronaldo. Really appreciate you, sir. And thank you for sharing your thoughts. And naturally, we'll be back. We'll have you back on the show. We love having you on the show. We love your wisdom. And thank you so much again. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring in Mr. Paul Morrison for any final thoughts that you have, sir, in terms of just the future workplace or any closing remarks. Go ahead.
Firstly, I said this at the start, I'm in the presence of some great men. For anyone who's listening, there's not just these men, there's plenty of people you can get access to through this brilliant network. So please use this as an opportunity to sharpen your axe. This is an amazing opportunity. It for me was a time of calibration, a time of reflection, time of focus, time of planning. But please use this time wisely. In the next few months, I'd love to be able to ask everyone listening to this message, did you do what you meant to do over the last 3 or 4 months? If you say no, then you missed an opportunity. So don't say no, say yes. So use this as a time to really focus on bettering yourself. I'm here if you need me. Please contact Ozzy if you do want to get in touch with me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate everything that you've shared. Appreciate your time. I've been trying to get you on the show for a long time, so it's good to finally get you on. Finally roped you in. But no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Okay, let's hear from Mark Martin. Let's bring him back in. Mark, thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. Please leave us with your final thoughts.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I can give away is around the power of your network and writing your own story. And it's really important that, through the different challenges that we face on a daily basis, that it's really important to write your own story so you can control your narrative, and that, no man's a lone island. So we definitely need to be able to build your tribe, understand people's strengths and weaknesses within that. And once again, you're going to hear more no's in this journey, but you're not in it for the no's. You're in it to kind of keep plowing through, doing the wonderful, awesome stuff that you're doing now. And again, having such a great network like this this is a seed planter. We're not going to give you the sunflower today, but it's about how do you build upon that in the foreseeable future.
Fantastic, Mark. And sir, thank you again for everything you shared. I appreciate it. You're a regular on here. We're definitely going to get you back on. Love the wisdom, sir. So thank you. Okay. And last but certainly not least, I'll bring back in Mr. Paul Essien. Paul, thank you again for joining me. Again, someone who I've interviewed previously. We worked together very closely. And some things in the pipeline, cooking, some of the nuggets that you've shared previously. We want to turn those into a resource that people can actually use so they can actually just stress test their business ideas and really just kind of strip off the fat and really have an effective offering that solves problems. That's literally what you're about. But leave us with your final thoughts, please, sir. Thank you.
My final thoughts are, for whatever reason, audience, you joined us this evening, my guess is that things are not exactly where you want them to be or where you feel they should be. My guess is that mistakes have been made and there's been things that you've had to endure and you're seeking another way. I don't think there's any shame in that. In fact, I think that the chances are you're an outsider of some sort. I'm not talking about your skin color, your sex, your sexual orientation necessarily, but maybe it is that. Now, I believe that there's value in the fact that we are outsiders. I believe that it puts certain struggles upon us that require endurance, and that endurance creates skills within us. It creates a certain practicality within us that the business world would kill for. You have skills latent within you that the business world will pay you for if you learn how to apply them to problems. And if you learn how to create solutions from them, evidence how good your solution is, and find who your customer is, find who to send your invoice. You will be alarmed at how fast these invoices get paid. Now, I've been on my journey for a short space of time. 6.5 years ago, my wife was paying for my petrol. And I don't say that with any shame. It shows me her character, but it shows how fast life can change, because it's not taking me 6.5 years. It took me about 9 months. And I'm just saying that a lot of the things that I brought to bear, I already had within me. I just didn't know. But by virtue of being an outsider, by virtue of my struggles, by virtue of my disappointments, it imbued skills within me that I now bring to bear in the business world. And you can do the same. So make contact with OC through EJWAY Education. He will give you access to his next network. Ask him and see what he says.
Fantastic, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. Again, just love the value that you bring, love the perspective that you bring. You don't have to apologize for being a capitalist, unashamed capitalist. Yes. People can't complain when they see you driving the car that you're driving. But no, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you. And yes, we'll definitely have you back on the show. But my goodness me, here's what's happened in the chat box. People are saying, yes, they'd love to connect with Paul Essien. They say, I think, yes, please. This is in response to my question. I said, would you like a part 2? So people are saying, yes, please. And we've got someone else saying, yes, part 2 would be great. Well, guys, you've asked, I will deliver. So I will not disappoint. You want a part 2? Let's get a part 2. Let's make it happen. Guys, I'm all about solutions. If you have a business idea that you want refining, you need help with, go to www.edgewayedu.com. Fill in the form, fill in the contact form. Somebody will get in touch with you. We'll be happy to help you. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed tonight's session. I am so happy to bring these sessions to you every week. Join me this Thursday at 3 p.m. for another Forex 101 session. I'm going to be joined by Ralph Danquah from the United States. He's a Forex educator, and we're going to help you with more basic tips. And then, of course, join us next week for another Tuesday Night Live. And we have another special guest for you. My goodness me. If you don't know who the guests are coming up for June, you need to check out the video on the Honing blog. So go in there and check out who's coming up for the rest of the month. And we've got some great speakers lined up for July as well. I'm excited. I'm going to keep myself calm. I'm not going to say any more than that. But guys, take care. Have yourselves a blessed rest of the week. And I'll see you all on Tuesday. If not, I will see you back here in the Honey Block for Tuesday Night Live next week. Take care and good night.